Once again, I'd like to begin by thanking everyone for posting your questions. Let's get started. It's my understanding that associates generally want called to serve the family 24/7. In the days before cell phones, how were people summoned if they weren't home? And how much time did they have to respond? Before cell phones, there were beepers. And prior to that, someone would either call or go to your house or send a message with someone to give you. As for the acceptable time for a response, I guess that all depended on who was trying to get in touch with you. If a made man has to go on a trip across the country for mafia business, is it better to fly in a commercial plane or drive yourself in a car? I would say that depends on what business you're going to conduct. I think driving is the best bet. Keep in mind, presently, besides cell phone towers, which can track your phone, you have Easy Pass, as well as photos of you and your plate at tolls. So the days of traveling incognito are long over. Is the mob's lifestyle unhealthy, eating at restaurants all the time and hanging out in bars every day? I think anyone who eats in restaurants and stays in bars all the time is affecting their health. You don't have to be in the mob to abuse your body, which segues into the next question. Are mob guys ever able to relax, or is there always constant stress paranoia in their lives every day? Going to bars and restaurants are how most guys relax. But to answer your question, not every day is a stressful one. You mentioned in one of your videos about talking in code. Do you have any examples of code? Do you have any funny examples of guys misinterpreting code? Speaking in code is obviously talking about something or someone without saying what or who it is by name. I've mentioned Patty DeLaRosso, nicknamed Big John Lurch. So if Patty called me to say that they were all going to be in a restaurant for dinner, there were times that I told him, I can't make it. I got to go see Lurch tonight. As for funny examples, I can't recall any offhand. Although there were many guys who misinterpreted code, including at times myself, and we couldn't understand what someone was trying to tell us. What happens if a captain or someone higher ranking gives you an order that you disagree with? That's what you have a consigliere for. But personally, I would go to any of a handful of old timers and get their advice. Most of the time, you just have to do whatever it is. Sometimes what you may not agree with doesn't matter. What do you think of the Camorra? Do you know if the American Cosa Nostra have nowadays any kind of business with the Camorra? And do you think it's possible that Antonino Bartolino is alive and living in New York? The Camorra, as we know, is one of the organizations operating in Italy, specifically Naples. And lately, in similar fashion to the 'Ndrangheta, they've branched out to other countries, as recent arrests have shown, where they've set up shop in Bosnia and Portugal, as well as other countries. My thoughts about them is they're doing more business with the other organizations in Italy and Sicily, which can only give them more power. Antonino Bartolino was a boss of the Casalesi clan and was very close to bosses in the Sicilian mafia. It's believed Bartolino was killed in Brazil. However, there are people that believe he's still alive. If this is true, he could be living anywhere, including New York. When you do research on the Sicilian mafia history, what clan is your most interesting subject? Without question, that would be the Coglianesi, who for me are the most interesting. If you follow their history and what they were able to accomplish as far as taking control of the mafia in Sicily, it's pretty interesting. The next person wants to know, if he used a gun instead of a knife, would his conscience be able to take a life more easily? Taking someone's life is something each of us have to process and deal with differently. It doesn't matter if you use a gun, knife, or some other means. It's about how your conscience can come to peace with your actions. And if you believe in God, you would seek forgiveness. Paul Castellano allegedly made a statement. In this life, guys are either gangsters or racketeers. What are your thoughts on this statement? And do you think this still holds true to present day? Does conducting oneself as a gangster attract more heat? The mob has always had three groups: gangsters, racketeers, and politicians. Or as we would put it in recent times, capable guys, earners, and politicians. And obviously, a gangster or someone who's capable can attract more law enforcement attention. Did mob guys use certain doctors who wouldn't report an injury to the authorities? Everyone knew a doctor or several of them. I'm sure years ago, they used doctors to operate covertly, but not during my time. If we did need a doctor for some reason, one would be available to us. You recently did a video about a guy's sister. Are there more women active in the mob now? Do wives, mothers, sisters, and daughters generally know if their guy is a made man or part of the life? Women are definitely more aware and sometimes involved in Italy. as they're accustomed to their lifestyle. As far as someone's family, it all depends. Unfortunately, women find things out from all the gossip that goes around. Why don't we hear more about conflicts between different organized crime groups? Because the name of the game is making money. Conflict only brings heat. Over the last couple of years, the mob has wisened up when it comes to violence. They understand without it, they can remain free longer. How powerful is the West Side currently? And do you think their power gives them influence over local and political officials? They've always been a powerful family. When most people think of the West Side, they think they're known for being secretive. With that family, it's a given. But what they're known for is their immense wealth. I really wouldn't know if they have politicians in their pockets or not, although it wouldn't surprise me if they did. Was Johnny Sideburns made for that life, in your opinion? Look, he's been part of that life for a very long time now. A lot of people say I wasn't made for that life, and they think they're insulting me. I was a member of that life, and they picked me. And I quickly learned that I wasn't like the majority of them. I remember one time someone said to me, "Why would you get involved with them? They're a bunch of lowlifes." A true statement. If there was one thing you could say to Vic Amuso, what would it be and why? I would tell him to step down and let the world know that you gave up the boss position. Also to replace your lawyers and get lawyers who use the letter of the law, not go on wild goose chases when your freedom is at stake. Why would I tell him this? Because if there was the slightest chance, and I think that ship has sailed, of him ever getting released, it would greatly help that he no longer held the official boss position. This person gave a scenario. If two made guys with different crews had a sit down and one guy brings his captain, can the other guy bring his as well? Or can he handle the meeting alone and speak with the other guy's captain? Good question. First of all, if a guy shows up with his captain, the other guy could say he don't want to speak without his captain being present. He can also decide not to get his captain and speak for himself. Years ago, there was a sit down that I was sent to in an acting captain capacity for Anthony Guzzo. When we got to the restaurant, Frankie Giudice and Mikey Scarola were there, who were both in Jackie Nose's crew at the time. I think my memory's slipping a little. Anyway, Mikey wanted to know if I wanted a Gambino captain to be there. And I told him no, we'll talk among each other. Please remember to hit the like icon and like this video, which I appreciate if you do. Also, if anyone wants to show appreciation for this video, you can do so with the super thanks icon. Given your friendship with Joey Amato, will you ever introduce the members of his crew anytime? Anytime Joey and I met or spoke, we did so privately. On one occasion, while we were talking, a guy pulled up in a truck. He didn't introduce us, but when the guy drove away, he told me that the guy was with him. One time I was speaking about someone I was away with, and he told me that the guy recently was put in his crew. He also introduced me to another member of his family that I was pissed at and asked me to go easy on the guy because the guy was close to Andy Mush. And for the last question, if you went back in time and spoke to the old you, the up-and-coming associate or newly made man, and told them where you're at now and how it's going to be, what do you think would happen? Would the old you listen, side with you, or fight with you? I think if I was able to show myself back then how things would turn out, my advice to myself would be the same advice I recently gave someone else, which is put as much money aside and plan your escape. And hopefully the old me would listen. I think most of us wish we were able to go back in time and change the way our futures played out. We're unable to do such a thing. So what's important is to accept the good, the bad, the ugly, and any mistakes we've made and learn from it all and become better versions of our former selves. Would've, could'ves are just a waste of time. We're not judged by our past sins, but by what we do with the time we have left.